before we do any sort of questions and things, I'm just going to let Isaac take some time, because last time on the live stream, I said that we would bring some comparison books, like things we looked at when we decided how we wanted to design these books. And he's going to show you that. And then we have a cool announcement. So let's do the comps first, and then I'll do the announcement, then you can show off what we mean by the announcement.
Okay. So Adam, is this camera on?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to talk you through just a few different things before I show the comps real quick. So just sort of like what we were thinking. First off, this is a normal hardcover that you get at the bookstore. They're nice. Tor did a really nice job on these. They normally don't have things like full color end papers, but some do. So
I pushed really hard for that. Tom Doherty has said he regrets agreeing with me that we should do that because they're much more expensive. But I got him to say yes, and we haven't let them.
And now we do it on almost every book.
Yeah.
And then we pushed them again in Oathbringer. Can you put the map on the back of the dust jacket?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we're doing, we get away with a lot. The publisher is, particularly Tor, really nice to us in this regard with the full color and pages and things like that.
They've been great on that. So, fairly normal hardcover. This is a little bit nicer than most, but fairly normal hardcover. And then we have, a really nice, genuine leather-bound volume of The Way of Kings. Mm-hmm. And we're like, we want to do something in between.
Yeah.
And
leatherbound costs $200. That's too high a price point.
Two volumes. This is, I don't know what this is up to now. It says $37.99. Mm-hmm. We wanted something quality-wise in between, so it's a little more collectible than a typical hardcover. Not a genuine leatherbound for your New York style 2-level library or whatever it is that you have in your home.
And the money that we thought we'd be able to do with the Kickstarter going direct to people meant that we could spend a little more than Tor does on theirs.
Right.
And still have a similar price point.
Yeah. So that's kind of what we were thinking. So some of the comps that we had.
And quick interruption, Isaac.
Yeah.
The two marks in the center are the center of the frame. You've been putting them on the side. Sorry, the up and down.
That's the center?
That's the center.
Okay. Cool. Thank you
Just
for
so you know,
reminding
just so
me
you're
on that.
off on the side. So I apologize.
All right. So we'd kind of done something like that last Kickstarter when we did The Way of Kings Prime. However, we used nicer quality materials. So this was a comp, but we wanted to do more than just that. Yeah. This one had nice fabric covered book.
Has a good feel to it.
Has a good feel to it. It's very similar to some of the Folio Press books, which is a lot of the ones that we looked at. So first off, we were thinking things like these UK editions of the Terry Pratchett books, which have kind of a nice posterized image on the front.
Those are just one of my favorite editions of books recently. I have all of them. I think they're gorgeous and nifty. Ours aren't going to be the size of those, most likely. They're going to be the same size. See, those are kind of an undersized.
Yeah.
We're looking for something that will fit on the shelf next to other Sanderson novels at the same size.
So we have it at the exact same size as Way of Kings Prime, which is slightly bigger than 6 by 9 inches, but it should sit on your shelf well next to your leather bounds. So all of these books are going to be this big.
Mm-hmm. But for the way the cover looked and things, we liked those Pratchetts. I feel like Gallant's, I believe those are Gallant's, did just a really good job with those. I see the G on the spine.
Yeah, one says Doubleday.
So one must be the UK edition, one must be the US edition of the same things. But they just did a really good job with those. So that's kind of where we started.
Right. And some other comps, there's a UK edition of Assassin's Apprentice that we looked at, and we said, this is kind of, they're nice. They have rounded spines. There's 2-color foil on it.
Yeah, that's like the one that when we got that, you handed me to that. I said, yeah, I want something that's like this.
That's going in that direction.
I want something that feels like that.
These have... Do you want me to go on and talk about some of the other things inside? So they have full color end papers. Our end papers are going to be probably, I'm pushing the artists more toward symbolic rather than illustrations on the covers. I want...
On the covers or in the end pages?
I'm sorry, on the end papers. So the end papers, I'm thinking these books remind me of books from the early 1900s, not the stories themselves, but how we're presenting them so that they're kind of like these classical books that you would see in libraries. And that's kind of what I have in my head. So I think of very kind of classy end papers. Each artist is going to do something different. Like these. This is from a Folio Society edition of George R.R. Martin, and they have kind of a two-tone with a metallic gold. So I've told the artist, hey, if you come back to me and say you just want to do for full color illustration for the end paper, great. But I have told them sort of the scope of the project too, and so we'll see what they do. We're in the middle of they're reading the books, they're brainstorming, they're sending me ideas. But inside we will have at least 4, I say at least 4, there will be up to 4 full color interior illustrations like you see in this edition of Assassin's Apprentice.
Now that's the thing that I wanted to make, because I wasn't 100% sure where we were going with that. But that's what I've asked for, so I'm glad that we're doing that. We'll just have full color illustrations.
There will be 4 of them in each book, probably spaced roughly equal throughout, depending on the places that the illustrators want to illustrate. So, some of the illustrators want to do some things for the chapter headers, and there might be some little spot illustrations throughout, depending on the illustrator. We've kind of given them freedom to design the books, basically, to a certain extent. So, so those were the inspirations that we had.
I think you guys are going to love these books. I think they're going to look gorgeous. And will look really nice on the shelf. And the nice thing about them, like Isaac's saying, is we want them to look really nice on the shelf next to your leather-bounds. If we do leather-bound editions of these books, which we might, they're 10 years off. At least. And so we want you to be getting Dragonsteel editions that you feel comfortable having just this nice collection on the shelf, but that also won't look out of place next to the other books. Like if you've bought Dawnshard or Edge Dancer, they kind of have this not just jacket printed directly on the book sort of illustration cover, symbolic cover. And we were looking for things that would match those as well.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because after I showed you the Assassin's Apprentice, I went out and started looking for materials and things that we could use, and I had this sample of this is a Microsoft book. I mean, hopefully I can show it on here. It was a sample that was given to me by one of our printers. And it has a really nice feel to it. And it has
this texture with this
texture. It's
de-embossing.
So it's debossed on. So they take the material, then they deboss it, and it kind of brands it a little bit. So you have a lighter red and a darker red, and then they've foiled it on top of that. And it has a nice feel to it. It's soft, but it's a synthetic. I don't even know if it's a synthetic material, but it's made by
It's not leather.
It's not leather. We've had some people ask if it's vegan friendly, and we've sent over links for them to be able to look and see. But I know that it goes with like the Forest Alliance and things like that. This comes from ecological fibers, and it's a nice material that feels luxury, but it's not made from animals as far as I know. So here's the kind of the back on that too. It has a nice texture to it, and it feels nice. So I showed this to Brandon, and he's like, yeah, that feels really nice. So the images that you see on the campaign will be done in this sort of a style. Right now, there's the main color of the book, the debossed color, and then 2 other colors of foil. And I can show you kind of some of the colors that we're choosing from. So you see here how it sort of brands. We're not using pink on the book, but you've seen from the Kickstarter video and things that we're using this nice emerald for project number 1, one of these 2 for project number 2, a sort of midnight blue for project 3, and a red for project 4. And those covers are somewhat final, but there will be things that have changed a little bit. I know Howard's giving us more thumbnails for the first book, and I just...
I think the other 3 are we think final. It's only the first one that we're still getting some. This is Howard Lyon, our good friend and excellent artist, is still fiddling around with what he wants to do with his cover.
So that's akin to an announcement that I just accidentally made there.
Yeah.
That's our first artist.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if we've announced that yet. So Howard Lyon is doing the art for this first book and designing it. So we're excited to have him on board.
And that's actually not our big announcement.
No.
So let me talk about something first as we get to this. So this is, you may say big announcement. I'm not announcing another book or anything. It's not that big. But I got the question last week, and I've gotten it a few times, why no stretch goals? And we felt that having the swag already built into this, that adding on more swag and things would feel weird and whatnot. And, we weren't sure, didn't know this Kickstarter would go as big as it did. And so we sat down last week and said, do we want to add stretch goals? And everybody involved was like, what are we asking the stretch for? They have already gotten us the #1 Kickstarter of all time. And so under that, I'm like, well, yeah. And was it Kara or you who suggested, who came up with the idea of, why don't we just give thank you rewards?
I think that was Kara and her team. Yeah.
And just said, why don't we just, take, yes, this is Kellen's fault, a good thing. Why don't we take, because we have extra money to play with, because we are printing more copies than we thought. And so rather than just pocketing that money, we want to take it and make the things that we're putting in the boxes nicer, right? And this is just how merchandise, including books, works. If you print 5,000, you print them at this many per copy. If you print now, we're looking at 50,000, I think.
We're just over 50 last time I checked.
So if you print
each book.
50,000, you get more. Now that increment that you earn gets smaller and smaller each break point.
Yeah, it does.
To the point that you start earning a few cents by going up to the next break point. But we had some money to play with, and we thought, let's just make the books that much nicer. As a reverse stretch goal, you've already given us enough that we can do this. So we're not announcing a stretch goal. We're announcing a thank you reward.
Yeah.
And Isaac is going to tell us what that is.
So first off, well, I'm just going to tell you.
Yeah.
We're going to print the interiors of the books in 2 colors. This is what we have normally done with our leather-bound books. And I'm going to show you what I mean.
Yep.
For those who may not know. So when you print a book in one color, you basically are printing on the K plate, the black plate of the printer.
And you can do shadows and things like that. But,
grayscale, all of that. You can do that. But when you go 2 color, you pick a Pantone color and you say, in addition to the black, let's add a blue. So you can see the difference between that and that.
It is spectacular how much nicer that looks with a second color on it.
Yep. So I'm going to leave it up to the artist. They're going to choose what color that they would like to add. And then we're going to add that to the second color of the book.
This makes illustrators usually really excited because they can do things like the text of the book is going to just be black usually, right?
Yeah.
But what it allows them to do is in their illustrations, if they want to do any spot illustrations, if they want to do headers for the chapters, and if we want to do some ornamentation at the chapter headings or things like that, what we can do is we can play with adding that second color in.
Right, and maybe to show things that we've done in The Way of Kings.
Yeah.
Like the title is in a nice sapphire blue. The running headers are in blue. I imagine these big drop caps, if we use big drop caps in any of the books, will have a secondary color.
I think we did the epigraphs in blue, right?
Yeah,
and things like that. Like we can just play with color, and the books look really sharp when you add a second color like that. Onto them. And so we got that priced out, and we can pay for it using the extra money per book that we are getting. And so we're going to do that.
Here's just another sort of thing in a different color. You can see how Steve Argyle in the illustrations in The Way of Kings really kind of took that to an extreme using some really beautiful colors. And so that's the sort of thing that we'll be able to do now.
So you'll still have full color on those illustrations, but everything else will have this cool two-tone.
Everything else. So some of the artists might choose to add a two-tone illustration in addition to a full color illustration. It just gives us a lot more leeway in how we make this book beautiful.
So thank you all.
Yes,
thank you for supporting this Kickstarter to extreme and unreasonable levels.
Yeah. It makes the artists very happy to get to play with things like this too. It's not something you get to do every day.
So we're going to go to any questions that you have, just kind of about how the Kickstarter's going, Isaac and the art, things like that, non-spoilery questions about the Kickstarter. And we have probably what?
Hour and a half.
We've got about 35 minutes left for this section. So you've got him for a half hour. Let us know what you want to know from Isaac. Or from me.
So the first question I have is for Isaac. I don't know who it is from, but they said the Kickstarter mentioned 4, and in parentheses, I think, commissioned illustrations per book. I assume that's the cover plus 1 to 2 in-paper pieces and an interior illustration or 2. Is that about right?
Actually, no. So I'll just tell you some of what we have planned, and it may vary per book. But the cover is a separate illustration from those 4. So we're talking 4 illustrations that are here. I'll pull out this book right here because it's cool, and Adam let me borrow it. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So this book has these full color illustrations inside. We'll be using similar paper to this, which they call magazine stock, but we try to use archival nice paper. So we will have up to 4 of these in each book. I'm hoping 4 in each book.
Yeah, not 100% guaranteed that there's 4 in each book. It's just going to depend on the artist and the layout. They may decide to do something else or things like that. But
and some of those might be a 2-page spread. Some might be 1. But we're hoping for 4 in each book. Additionally, there will be color end papers
which are separate.
Which are separate from that.
And those might not be full color. It depends on if the artist wants a two-tone. It's really up to the artist designing it. What they feel like they want.
Then the cover is separate. We talked about that. And there will be little illustrations or designs on each chapter heading. That's separate from the 4 full color illustrations. And if the illustrator wants to, there will be spot illustrations throughout using the 2 colors that we talked about. So this is quite a production for each of the books. They're going to be really cool. And we've had some people ask about the ebook. We are hoping that the ebook will include all of this as well. It's fairly easy to add a second color and add the illustrations and things. It just means that ebooks will be a little bit heavier on the digital side of things.
They'll be a bit larger. So good question. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.